What's up? This Cash. Cash got next. Coming from the hoods to St. Louis, Missouri, I always want to give back. And this my way of giving back, showing y'all how to cut hair. Yeah, I'm gonna show y'all how to razor. I'm gonna show y'all how to do them beards. Get that A1 crisp enhancement, line up, all that. Ball fades, shadow fades, tip fades, mohawks, we doing it all. Y'all wanna learn? Tune in. Hey y'all, make sure y'all comment, like, subscribe, and follow me. Cash got next _. And oh yeah, I'm a platinum producer as well. So you might catch me in the studio too. I got you next, baby. Let's go. What's up, YouTube University? First off, I want to give a shout out to everybody that's following me, subscribing, and liking all my videos. I appreciate it for real. And hold on, I gotta give a big shout out to my boy Chris. And make sure y'all go follow my nephew. His Instagram is Chris_CTG. Y'all make sure y'all follow my little nephew. All right, now let's get straight to it. Now for this haircut, I'm using my detachable Andis. I'm starting off with that 0A. My boy, he like a shadow fade. He like it close, but not bald. Leave your comment below on the clipper you go to first when you doing a shadow fade. Me, I'ma always run with the Andis detachables because each blade fades into the next one. So what I'm doing right now is setting that guideline. And I like to start right in the middle of the side of his head and drop down towards the back to give it that drop shadow fade effect. So I pretty much go all the way around to the other side doing the same thing for the first guideline. And make sure when you cutting, make sure you follow, like, if you can notice, some of his hair is growing to the side, some growing straight down. That's why I comb the hair first to see which direction it's going in if I can't automatically just look and tell. You can see some parts go sideways, some parts go straight up and down. Just make sure when you're going against the grain to go the direction that's against the grain. So if it's growing sideways, go sideways against the grain to get everything to be on the same level. Now I'm on the other side of the head, bringing everything back around to match. And also, most importantly, if you could tell, if you look very closely, I'm flicking at the end because I don't want a harsh line that I can't get out, and it'd be hard to blend it. So I like to do a lot of flicking and wrist action to really get that fade to jump. If you move your arm too much, you probably ain't doing a good job. That wrist is where it's at. Once you come to the top of your guideline, flick it so it won't be a harsh line. It's almost like you freestyling a fade right there. And that'll come into play towards the end of this haircut. You'll see how it blends right on in. Now next, what I did was I put the #1 blade on. So that's the next level. So we went from 0A, now we on #1. We taking it to the next level. So I'm gonna go up a little bit and knock that next line out. Still flick when you go up to the top because you don't want a harsh line. As you can see, the 1 blends perfectly with the 0A. So that's why I like the Andis detachables, because they already number. It's very simple. To me, you just go from 0A, 1, 1.5 to 2. You're done with your fade. It's very simple. Then I add a couple details. It's not always perfect, but I can go in with my masters and kind of detail the parts that didn't fade exactly how I wanted it to do. So I'm pretty much following the same steps I did in part 1, but we're just taking it up a little bit. Now what I'm about to do, I'm gonna go ahead and put that 1A on them. We almost done now with the fade anyway. There's a lot more to it, but this is the next level. So we're gonna do the same thing we've been doing. We started with the first level, 0A. We took it up a little bit with the 1. Now we got the 1A. We're gonna do the same exact thing. Go up a little bit, flick it at the end.
Cash plays, cash plays.
true barber for these Velcro pieces to hold the hair up, man. Y'all are a lifesaver. I'm talking about. I love these things, man. This is a genius invention, for real. It's a lifesaver to keep the hair out the way. I hate trying to put ponytails on people, and you know, the stuff we gotta go through as barbers. As you can see, that fade is starting to blend right in. So the next step, what we're gonna do, we're gonna put that 1.5. I love this blade. It do a lot. With the grain, it keep it dark. Against the grain, it's just like a 1. It blends right in with the 1. So what I'm doing with this, I'm real light, because the texture of his hair, you can mess up easy, because the texture is so fine. You gotta be careful sometimes. Don't go in for the kill all the time. Test it out first before you go straight hardcore against the hair like that. Because you don't know from the last person you cut, it's gonna be different. Every customer and every person has a different texture of hair, so the blade sometimes will cut differently. So I like to test it out first before I go all the way in. So I use more of like a feathering method to feather out the bulk. And another important thing, as you can see how I push this head to the side so I can see, it's important to get your client in the right position to where you can do your job. Because if the lighting ain't right, or they sitting a certain kind of way where you can't hardly see, don't be scared to push their head to the side. They ain't gonna get mad at you. Push their head to the side and get the right angles you need. Because they'll be more mad if you mess up their hair than you moving their head. As you can see, I just put on that 2 blade, baby. We almost there, we at the top. I always end my fades either with a 1.5 or a 2 when I'm doing like a shadow fade. So it depends on what type of hair they got, what the texture is. I went with a 2 with this one, but I still might bring it down towards the end. But I just want to be on the safe side. I always play it safe, because you can always take off hair, but you can't put no more hair back on if you cut it off. So be careful what y'all doing out there with these clippers. You know how many people that came to me because they got clippers for Christmas and they tried it out on themselves and they tried to get me to repair it? I can't put this hair back on your head, bro. So just listen to me and just always play it safe with these clippers.
Cash plays. Cash plays.
Just getting that top layer all the way even. And as you can see, I got some spots I gotta go back over. And these blades can be adjusted as well. And that's probably what I need to do, because they usually will just fade right into each other. For the most part, it did pretty good. So I'm gonna pull out my cordless go-to and this adjustable Masters. I got a guard on it, my purple magnetic guard. The purple guard I'm using right now is a 0. And I'm testing that out first just to see if it'll knock some of the dark areas out. So I'm still doing my test. I'm not going in all the way. I don't want to mess anything up that I've already started. So I'm testing, I'm slowly inching in, seeing what it's doing. I always like to test out. And as you can see, it's getting some of the darker spots. I love using multiple clippers too, because they cut at different ways and different levels. So that'll make your fade like flawless. When you can mix 1 or 2 clippers together, because you really can do a whole fade with either one of those clippers. But when you mix them together, you're putting like the best of both worlds together. And I gotta give a big shout out to Andis with these cordless masters. These are my favorite clippers. They're powerful, they're light, they're everything you need. You can use them anywhere. You could be in the car and cut somebody hair if you needed to. They're wireless, they're the best thing out. My only issue with them is my battery. I don't know about the battery, but that's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that next time. All right, so pretty much this is a cleanup process, so I'm gonna let the cameras roll in. And while I got a little time, let me give a special shout out and thank you to my wifey, my camera girl, my content creator. She do her thing. Y'all follow Expression 8 Create on IG. She go crazy. You see these quality of this video. You can see the hairs popping up and everything. You see how we coming. Yeah, Cash got next. We going big, baby. And people be kind of confused about me because I produce music. All the music you hear, I produced it. I'm Grammy nominated. I got platinum plaques. I work with Migos. I work with all the biggest artists, but they like, you cut hair? But I was cutting hair before all that. I cut a lot of the artists' hair as well. So it's like, I'm on the same level with cutting hair as I am with music. So it's like, some days I want to be a super barber. Some days I want to be a super producer. You feel me? And I usually do a pretty good job of juggling the two because I can cut hair in the daytime and produce music at night. And it don't hurt to have a studio at the barbershop. So if I ain't cutting the head, I'm cutting the record. You dig? Oh yeah, now that fade looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. Okay, now I'm putting the #1 magnetic guard on to try to further blend. I'm a blend fanatic. I'll go over the same spots multiple times, multiple different directions to try to see if I can get a little bit of the darkness out. It's gonna be a very smooth blend all the way through. I'm being very careful too to not touch the top of the hair and not cut none on the top of his head because he don't want that touch. He's growing that out. And I like to always comb, brush off loose hair to clean up my work area so I can see what's going on. Because sometimes you'll think it's a bulk piece, but it just be some hair that you cut that's on the back in the middle of the fade or something like that. I always sanitize and spray down my clippers as well. And you know I have to pull out them babyless, cordless Pro Silver effects. Now let me tell you something about these. These are probably the best cordless liners that I've ever tried out. I promise you, like, These things are so sharp. They were sharp. I had my guy, shout out to Keenan too. That's my supply guy. You will be seeing him on some of these episodes as well. But he gets my clippers all the way right. They be so sharp. But I got such a light touch. I can handle a lot of the sharp clippers. But these clippers were so sharp, you can actually cut somebody with them, but you just gotta know what you're doing. But the hair comes off like a hot knife going through some butter, baby. You see that hair coming off? Look at that. That's good. And what I like to do is do a light line up first before I go all the way in, because I don't want to agitate the skin or anything like that, but I keep going over the line so many times. So you might see me do a quick little line, then go back and detail it. I'm just doing the same thing on both sides before I actually put the fade on it.
Gas plays.
We went in a little bit because he likes it a little more of that type of shape. So when we fade it out in the back, I always do that special effect too, where I fade out my shadow fades. Kind of almost like a 10 fade mixed with a shadow fade. You'll see in a minute. Now here's the secret to my shadow fades. I always temp it out towards the bottom of that shadow fade just to give it a crazy look to the shadow fade. I always temp it out in the back and on the sides. That's just my little personal thing that I like to do. Now I'm using my cordless masters to get that line out that I just created with the trimmers. I got them all the way closed too, and these are zero gap. So it's getting that line right out. I love these clippers. I push it back a little bit to go to the next level, and I repeat that step until it's all the way faded. And as you can see, I'm still flicking that wrist. Don't never forget that, flick that wrist. So you can have that flawless fade. Keep flicking that wrist. And you see how some parts is growing sideways in the back? That happens a lot. So you kind of want to run your clippers sideways too, to go against the grain in that direction. So that'll be the opposite direction as it's growing. When we say against, that just means the opposite. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the side too, towards the bottom, to give it a good fade illusion. So pretty much I'm kind of mixing a temp fade in with a shadow fade, which gives it a great illusion for this shadow fade. Now you can really see the direction of his hair and which way it's growing. So you know how to go against the regular growth pattern of his hair. You can really see that in this at this angle.
Gas plays. Gas plays. Gas plays. Gas plays. Gas plays.
I'm just pretty much doing the same thing on both sides all the way around. So I'm gonna take this time to give another shout out to my first sponsor, Street Certified Apparel. I gotta give a shout out to them. They coming with it. There's a lot of products coming. There's a lot of merchandise coming. Y'all stay tuned for that. So everything looking pretty good. Sometimes the fade be done. Sometimes the haircut be done. You won't really know sometimes until you put that line up on it. Because sometimes that bring out imperfections in the haircut when you see the hair with the line on it. Now this side I was still not satisfied with, so I went with a whole nother clipper, the Babyliss Pros clippers, just to see if it'd cut a little different from the Masters. And it worked. Look at that. That blend is fire. All right, next up. We're gonna go back to my Andis detachables. I got the 1 on. I usually use a 1 blade or a 1A or something like that on this part. And I'm just knocking down that front of the hairline. So when I hit it with my trimmers, when I line it up, oh yeah, it's gonna be A1. Dusting all the hair off. I like to keep it, clean so I can see what's going on. Got the face shield. Shout out to the face shield. Now I spray a little spritz on it before I line it up. Let it dry a little bit. And then go ahead and tap the line, because I'm gonna go over the line a lot of times. So I don't wanna go too hard on it to agitate the skin. So I'm just doing the initial line now just to get an idea of what we about to do. Now this part right here is very important. You don't want to push them back, but sometimes you got to go back a little bit to get it straight. And that's not necessarily pushing your lining back. That's just getting the hairs that's hanging over your hairline. So everything that's not pushing your lining back. That's just making your lining straight. If you're a real barber, you know what I'm talking about. And let's go ahead and take out the time to tackle this myth of a barber can push somebody's hairline back and it won't grow back. And that's so funny to me because you're giving us too much credit. We can't do that. If that's the case, the back of your head, when we fade you out in the back, you'll recede from that way. So if you're not receding in the back of your head, we can't make you recede in the front of your head, all right? You see how I'm hitting the corners now? Very detailed. I love these liners. They're my go-tos. They're very sharp and they're very accurate and powerful. just staying on the edge. I'm just staying on the edge. I do make my C's and my curves, but I like to stay on the edge also. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's looking good. You see how light I am? I'm very light. Because a lot of it, you don't really have to touch the skin that much. You can actually just cut the hair and not the skin. And that's why these are my favorite cordless trimmers. I mean, these liners, you can do a whole haircut with just these liners alone. You don't even need no other liners. And sometimes with the line, you gotta go against the grain too. As you can see, some of them hairs is going downward to the right. So you gotta sometimes go against that to get that to cut. But sometimes going with it will just brush the hair to the side. And I like to comb it out a lot when I'm lining people up, because what you don't want is for somebody to go to sleep the next day, wake up and their hairline is all gone, because the hair, you didn't comb the hair enough. All that excess hair, the hair that's hanging over the hairline, you gotta get that off.
Gas plays, gas plays, gas plays.
Okay, now I'm gonna put the enhancements on. I'm using an airbrush and I'm using a flyer that I cut up. You know how I do. It works just fine. Spraying lightly. I'm not spraying too much. He has a good hairline anyway. This just put a little enhancement on for him. All the kids love it. All the superstars love it. And it helps fill in like some of the spotty parts too, without having to take somebody's hairline all the way back. And it's okay not to get it perfect at this point, because we're still gonna go over this to perfect it. And you see how the card is, I can catch the corners real good. And I can catch the straightaway part real good. And as far as the C, I like to create that myself when I go back over the line. Now here are the Slimline Pros. These are some hitters too. These are some super hitters. They do real good when they're sharpened right and they're set right. They go hard. I also like to pull the skin as well when I'm lining. Either I pull it down the forehead, and I pull it to the side when I'm doing the side. That helps. So I'm bringing this side up a little bit because the other side was a little higher. So they can match it, so they can be even.
Gas plays.
Now I'm catching all the corners, I'm catching everything that I miss. I'm just going over, detailing everything. I do this about 3 or 4 times before I'm done. It's looking real good, buddy. Chris, I see you. I see you, Chris. Yes, sir. Now that's how you do that. And I can look back at my haircuts and say, hey, I could have did this, I could have did that, I could have did this, but you never get a perfect haircut. But to me, I'm satisfied with it. He loved it. We did a photo shoot after this, and you know, everything was beautiful. I hope y'all learned something from this video. If you're just now starting out, if you've been doing it for a while, if you do some of the same things I do, I'd love to hear everything y'all been doing in the comments. Let me know, reach out to me. I'm gonna reach back out to you, and I'm gonna check in with you from time to time. Follow me on IG, CashGotNext_ or Cash Clay Beats. Either way, if you do music, rock with me. If you need some beats, I got you. Let's go. If you need that haircut, you already know. You know, holla at your boy. Let's get it.